start. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. Would you please take roll?
Ms. Atkins.
Here.
Mr. Houston.
Here.
Mrs. McDaniel. Here. Mrs. Peterson.
Here.
Mr. Sorensen.
Here.
Mr. Wright.
Here.
Mrs. Shuffle.
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the January 29th, 2024 agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. At this time, I'd like to open the Lewis Central School calendar hearing for the 2024-2025 school year.
So basically, the calendar has been shared before. It's on page 64 of your packet. Essentially, it comes down, and we shifted some of the parent-teacher conferences. The big thing to note is February is going to be kind of a long month. There's kind of one PD day in there. Originally, we had parent-teacher conferences in February to kind of break it up, but because of the high schools trimester, they thought that was maybe too late to have conferences, so we moved it back to January. So February is a fairly long month, but then the first week of March is kind of our spring break. So it's for students, it'll be a good 5-day spring break. For staff, it'll be more of a 4-day spring break. So unfortunately, because of how the Christmas landed this year with the winter holiday, it's not like we were going to come back. There's some things we could have done, like December. We could come back on the 23rd, which is a Monday, but I don't think that would go over very well. I don't know we'd have very good attendance on that day. So it is a little shorter break, but then we do get out in May. We are getting out on May 29th with kids and May 30th with staff. So still out before June. Has about, again, just like this year, although we have one more PD day in there than what we have this year, so it gives us about 3.5 snow days. So we have a little bit of flexibility built in there. So yeah, that's kind of where we sit right now. But I was shared with all the buildings. All the buildings provided feedback, so we just kind of adapted it from there.
Okay, since this is a public hearing, anyone that's online listening or anyone in the audience, if you have questions, you can address those to the superintendent. And does any of the board members have questions?
No.
If anybody would like to write to our legislators and ask for flexibility on the first day of school, that would help out a lot. If we could start, say, on the 20th or 21st on certain years, we could be able to get out before June and have a week-long spring break. But until they provide that flexibility, in fact, not only are they not providing that flexibility, but there's a new bill going through the House that is going to require us that the 25th will be the new start date. So if the 25th is a new start date, we can pretty much guarantee that we will never get out before June and we will never have a week-long spring break. So, just because there's just simply not enough days, unless we start coming on Saturdays. So.
I can almost guarantee that would not go over.
Oh, okay.
Wouldn't try it.
Okay, did anyone online type anything? Nothing? Okay, so we are hearing, and no one on the board has any questions?
No.
All right, then we will go ahead and close the Lewis Central School calendar hearing and go on to our next item on our agenda, commendations and good news.
So I invited the AEA to come and kind of present to you guys today, because I know that there's a lot of conversation around there right now out in the state of Iowa about AEAs and services that are provided, and just in my opinion, it's my opinion, some of the facts that have been shared are not true. They like to point out things like our special education system here is failing. That is absolutely not true. They like to show the gaps between the special education students and their performance and our general education performance, and of course there's a gap. That's why students are identified as special education. The fact that any of our special education students score proficient is troubling to me, because it means we're probably over-identifying at that point. So there's a lot of things that are just not true. And I will tell you, working from both small rural schools and now little larger City school, I'll tell you that the services that are provided by the AEA are essential, and I have worked through a million different scenarios in my mind, and I cannot come up with a scenario that is better than what the AEA has been providing us. And the biggest thing for me is if they think that there's something better out there, then they need to provide us the time to be able to figure that out, you know, to get behind it. Otherwise, regardless of what's gonna happen, students and staff are gonna suffer. So, and families, there's a lot of families that work with the AEAs as well. So, anyway, without further ado, I got Dr. Plord here. He's going to kind of talk about the AEAs and kind of their value to us.
Thank you, Dr. Hazing. Just want to acknowledge Dr. Hartman. Also appreciate you both helping us. And thanks to the Board of Directors for giving us a few minutes. And I love that we're under the section Good News because we're here to share some good news. We certainly could present to Dr. Hazing's point for hours on this. We do many, many things. I also want to publicly acknowledge, you see some of my team members here. That's not all the team members that serve Lewis Central. On the last slide, we have a photo of many of them, as well as an opportunity for you to click on that and then see what they do specifically. So, and I've got a couple co-presenters here. I brought some sheets with me that highlight just a few things because, again, we don't have time to share everything. The first one is just a sampling of many of the things we do. We actually do more than this. It's got a long list of things. I guess what's most troubling in a nutshell with the new legislation is 85% of the items listed here will go away and will either fall back to the school or they just won't get done. And each of these has people and often teams of people that do them. When you talk about 85%, that's 5 out of 6 listed on here go away. And that's just, like Dr. Hazen said, that's just incomprehensible. The second one's our customer service survey. It's always high. People are very satisfied. You can go online and see all the anecdotal comments. 99+% of them are positive. We have work to do. We acknowledge that. All organizations our size do. We're open to that discussion, but we want to be at the table and have the discussion. Those little X's there, or the fee-for-service stamps, are new because that just gives you another sense of the things that will just completely go away. The third one there is our media services. Again, not all inclusive, but this is the one that's in most jeopardy, in my opinion. Again, teams of people behind each of these items, and your teachers certainly and your administrators could speak to the value there. The next one is just a sample letter. Tried to give you a diverse items. This letter I thought was very well done in terms of the sincerity, the authenticity, and the tone. This is actually a board member from Prairie Lakes, an adjacent AEA, but I just appreciated how Dr. Janice Harbour gave some context and some history. So I'd encourage you to read that just from a different perspective from another AEA. And then finally, the bill is super long. The first bill was 123 plus pages, very vague, very nuanced in its language, very confusing, even to people that do the work, and that's frustrating. The second bill, we had anticipated maybe some cleaning up of the language. I think in all honesty, and from an objective standpoint, I think it lacks even more clarity. It's very frustrating because we want to know what's even being proposed, and you can't really tell, and many of us have been in this a long time, so that's frustrating. So we provided you just kind of an overview, in our opinion, of kind of the things that are in there, just to give you a summary. So with that, I want to acknowledge one of our board members. We have a board also. We have a 9-member board that's elected by local people like you, and Chris Bloom is with us. Chris, if you want to just wave. And she's one of my 9 board members, and the reason I asked Chris to come is there's this false narrative out there that somehow we aren't accountable, or that we're not keeping track of our money, on and on, the narrative. And it's just untrue. Just like all of you meet on a regular basis, I meet, just like Dr. Hazen does, I meet with them on a regular basis. It's my job to keep them up to speed. I have 9 bosses who ask me the right questions and keep me accountable to all of you, Lewis Central, and all the schools that we serve. So if you want to click to the second slide, I'll just give a quick overview. We have a huge geographic area. We're responsible for 37,000 students, 43 public schools, 6 non-public schools. We serve homeschool students who have disabilities. We do not worry about who the child is, we worry about the child and the family and the school and the services that are needed. That third one has a photo of Chris, and then the fourth one, our field director, I'm gonna ask Jesse to come forward. We have folks that have done the job of principalship, come on up here, Jesse, that serve your principals, and I see you have a few principals here, and Jesse works with them, so go ahead, Jesse.
Hi, I'm Jessie. I'm a field director. I was an administrator, a high school principal for 15 years prior to coming to this job. And I mean, obviously outside of just reading those bullet points, which you have, really what my job is to do is to mentor, support, be there for principals, like especially principals that are newer in rural schools that don't have a lot of networks and stuff, being able to help them problem solve. It could be anything from helping them do effective walkthroughs to how to handle a situation with personnel. I also then meet with those principals to see how if they're willing to share and what they want to share about school improvement and where are some of the ways that we can connect our agency services to support school improvement to help it be more effective and aligned. I also supervise your child find folks, your SERs is what we call them, and our speech language pathologists in all the buildings, working with them to hear what's going on, find out if there's things that we can work on to help improve relationships and collaborative partnerships within the buildings and the schools. I mean, so really, and then sometimes it's also like if we don't have something that schools need, bringing it and saying this is what a school says we need, we currently don't offer it, how can we support it? Is this something we need to support agency-wise, or is this something just we need to make or develop for this particular school to support them? So trying to be on the ground, going into schools. I work that big area, the red part, so I have 10 school districts. So I spend a lot of my time just going in, checking in, going into buildings, seeing how things are going, and checking in with principals and seeing how we can support them and what the feelings are, and go from there.
Thank you, Jesse.
You're welcome.
You know, one of the proposals, come on up, Ivan. One of the proposals is that everything essentially would shift to the Department of Ed. And anybody that's, and I'm not here to down talk the Department of Ed, what they're proposing is just impractical. The way it works now is Dr. Hazing calls my cell phone. We talk on the cell phone. If he needs something in his district, he calls me and I call either Ivan Gentry or I call Jesse Taverdi. I won't get into the details or the specifics, but not long ago, Brent called me and he said, do you have somebody that does X? And we didn't. But I said, I've got somebody who can help you. And I called Jesse and I said, I need you to do this in the next 24 hours. It's complicated, but I trust you. I know you can do it. And it turned out that we didn't need that service here at LC because you were able to work it out internally. But the point is that within 48 hours, we were going to help you in a way that is unique and that needed a special skill set. The new system will be that you will call the Department of Ed. You will not call a cell phone. You'll get into a system. You'll leave a voicemail, and they may respond in time. We don't know what that time is. So we're very efficient. We personalize service. We're people of service. We're educators that are dedicated our lives to children, and we love partnering with you. So, Ivan, if you want to.
Sure. So my name's Ivan Gentry. I'm the Executive Director for Specialized Supports and Services, or the Special Education Director. In my past, I've been a para, a teacher, a building principal, a director of special education at an LEA, and now this role here. You can see on the slide all the things that we do. Everything that's special education in the district is part of what we do. So everything from child find, identification, weighting students, providing direct supports, related supports, services, providing professional learning, IEP training. All of those things are things that we do, and we do them very happily. That number up there is just a preliminary number. I don't believe that that data is finalized yet, but that kind of gives you an idea of the number of students that have an IEP or an IFSP in your district that our staff help to support. And so all of those things up there and more, as Dr. Pord said, part of my job is to work with people like Lisa and Brent, Lori Teese. If they call, we answer, we try to work through whatever those questions are, whatever those concerns are, so that we can get to a good resolution all around. So it's just a very general overview of what we do in special
Lisa, are you
education.
able to make that full screen, or will that block somebody else out if you make a presentation? Okay.
It's slow.
Thank you. And then the last few slides, we're going to ask Chad Bartlett to come forward and share on behalf of those last few slides.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Chad Bartlett. I am the Director of Strategy Improvement and Data. I oversee the Educational Services team. If you want to jump to that next slide, please. I'm going to talk to you about 3 different teams today. One of them, Educational Services Supports, Carrie Newman and myself oversee the universal services. If you look up there at the top left, those are the actual number of hours that Lewis Central staff has access to educational service supports from mid-August, August 15th, through the end of October 31. So you see about 350 hours of personalized individual support. That looks different every year, but that's hitting those major components around learner, ESSA supports, instructional supports, and leader and system supports. On top of that, you have consultants in many different areas. If you want to hit one more click there, look at that, I built a little transition in there, did you see that? Just some examples of what those hours are. When that loads up a little bit, you'll see that letters coaching, early childhood letters, data literacy, there's been some leadership support, English learner support, all of those things have been happening inside of your district, and those have been facilitated by our consultants with your team. So those are just some examples of things that are there. You guys are a stop threat assessment partner school. You're also using our professional learning course offerings, about 5,000 instructor hours during the full school year last year. A lot of those pieces are in jeopardy with the legislation that's been proposed. So obviously we're hoping that there's some changes and amendments that can happen to make sure this stays in place.
So one of the things to note on this, when they talk about those 5,000 hours, so right now, every mandatory training that the state sends out is sent out through the AEAs. The state has no platform, nothing at all to be able to provide these services for the schools. So if they came out and said, legislators like to pass laws, unfunded mandates, and so they came and said, well, I think everybody needs training on suicide risk assessment. So now they require all of us to take suicide risk assessment every year through the AEA. They require us to take mandatory reporter training through the AEA. They require us to take bloodborne pathogens training through the AEA. And so if the AEAs go away, that's just one of the services people don't understand. The other thing is a lot of our, you might hear about letters training. Letters training, they want this big push for science of reading and letters training and everything else. Well, the AEA is the one that provides that service. The Department of Ed pushes it through the AEA to us. So we're going to be without a lot of those services. And then on top of that, through these, like a lot of our teachers take a lot of classes through the AEA for renewal credits, for additional credits, to be able to move on the salary schedule. There's just a lot of courses and opportunities on there that without the AEA, those opportunities for our teachers' continued professional growth just goes away completely. So
To piggyback on that, Every Student Succeeds Act, which is a federal designation, you have a couple schools here that have those designations for subgroups. When you're a targeted school, the AEA facilitates and kind of coordinates essentially all of that work. We'd like to say we partner with the DE to do that, but that's not reality. That's led between us and your guys' building. So you've got Kristen, you've got our literacy teams, you've got Roxanne Wiles, who's a school improvement consultant, that really are just working with your team to figure out how to get a plan in place that's going to elevate those subgroups.
same thing with preschool. Anytime we have a preschool audit, we have to renew our preschool standing. A lot of that is done by our early childhood consultant from the AEA, and that is not a special education portion of their job. And so that portion would go away. And when they talk about the latest amendment, they kind of try to appease the school districts by saying, oh, well, we'll give you some cash. So they're going to give us some cash to be able to cover services. But when you look at the list of services that are provided, there is no way that even a school our size, the second largest in Green Hills AEA, would be able to cover those services. It's just not going to happen. Smaller districts, rural districts, are essentially, it's tough luck. There is a 0% chance. Coming from Missouri Valley, there's no way. There's no way. And then the only way to be able to do it would be to band together with, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different school districts, and then try to figure out who's going to hire the position. What does that sharing agreement look like? What is that going to cost? And then you're going to have all these districts fighting over certain personnel to try to replicate a system that's already in place. So, and it's going to come with a higher cost. It's going to come with more less efficiency. So anyway, I can go. Sorry, I get on a tangent here.
Hey, if you want to go on this side.
Hey, no, I tell you what. I care about two things. I care about staff and students, and that's it. And if there's something like this that's gonna impact that negatively, I feel like you gotta be a voice, so.
No, we appreciate that, and your guys' voices go a lot further than us because we work for the AA, right? So that comes with a tone of, well, of course you'd say that. When educators are out at LEA say these words, it means a lot more. So if you want to jump to that next slide, I'll talk to you about another one of our teams and the services that they provide. Next is our targeted services supports, and this is around all of those kind of areas that are in between general education and special education, where there's supports that are needed across the student body. So you'll see a lot of different things up there. Those numbers reference the number of each of those areas. So 1, talented and gifted consultation, 20 MSW, mental health, social worker referrals, etc. So you can see some of that data up there. The targeted services we offer at Hills AEA are listed down below, in addition to what you see up above. Lots of students who have a lot of challenging situations that need a higher level of support. And at Hills AEA, we have those experts, those professionals that can provide that. To Dr. Hastings' point, without being able to provide some of these services as the current bill is written, that puts it back on the school district to do so. And it's a challenging thing to do, even for the second biggest district in our area. It becomes very challenging, I would say impossible for some of our more rural districts. Next slide, please. The last slide you're going to see, this is one of those things that's often, it happens so much behind the scenes that we don't even think about it. And the level of impact that our media technology and digital learning resources have on teachers within your school district is it's enormous. Your district has had almost 45,000 interactions with the digital resources that are provided at a minimal cost to school districts. We have a data number, but essentially Hills AEA buys these programming options through a purchase agreement at about 5% the cost is what it would cost Dr. Hazing to replicate those services by himself. That's a product that's at risk, and you'll see that those are 45,000 different interactions that your school district has had with those services. In addition, we use a full calendar year or full school year, but last year almost 5,000 physical items were checked out from our media collection. We have a insurable value of $2.4 million in materials, things that can be checked out right down the street that we deliver to and from your teachers at least twice a week. So you can see the number of different books and novel sets and student books that have been checked out through our library. And then for the tech people that are in the room, assuming this guy back here making everything happen, he can talk to you about why E-rate and cybersecurity is important, and you guys are partnering with us in some of that work. So just some things that happen behind the scenes and that are just frequented by your staff and used by your staff that you don't even realize, but it's making their job easier, and it's allowing them to do better work for kids. You want to jump to the next slide here? Oh, Lisa, sorry. This next slide is just the faces to the people that are assigned to your district. These are not the only people. When I was looking on here, I'm like, oh, actually, I know like 3 or 4 others that have worked with Lewis Central on some sort of project that aren't listed, but these are first point of contacts that you have for math, literacy. So, I mean, literally anything you can think of, you've got somebody assigned there. Challenging behavior, autism support. So these are just some of those faces. If you have access to the slideshow, you'll be able to scan that, and you can see exactly who those people are and what they do for us and how they support your district. I'm going to hand it back to Jason.
Thank you, Chad. So we'll leave that slide up just because I think it's important that we realize that all of these decisions that are being proposed affect people and the lives of people, and every single photo up there, these are experts. I mean, we have experts of the experts. We know that. You know, I want to go back to the money issue. It's frustrating and sad to me that money is being sent out, these numbers are being sent out to our superintendents and to our boards, because we all need money, because we know money equates to people, and it becomes a temptation. The challenge really, I think one superintendent I talked to recently in the Green Hills area here, and kind of a mid-sized district, said, you know, Jason, the money is tempting, but this is not a math problem, this is not about money. I know I can call you or your team member at any point, and even though I don't necessarily access that service today, it's an insurance policy that I can access that if I need to. So just if you guys decided to take the money and purchase some of, you know, the services represented by the folks on the screen, you'll get partway there, but you'll lose access to those people that in a moment's notice, such as a crisis, we have an incredible crisis team. We know with the terrible event in Perry, Iowa, emergency services and police services show up side by side to take care of business. You know who's to the right and to the left of those folks? AEA folks. They're serving, and even to this day, weeks later, they are still there serving, taking care of and helping the children and the families and the staff that experienced that trauma. And that's just one, I held up that service, that's just one team. We have over 50 folks trained, specially trained, to help in that moment. And if you experience something like that as a district, you're not in a position, even professionals, to deal with it. And all of you in our community would trust folks like this and up there to come in and do what they do. Master social workers, school psychologists, highly trained folks. And I can tell a story for all 100 of those services that are very similar. So this is not a math problem, it's not a money concern, it's really about services to kids and quality services to kids, and in an efficient way. I mean, just the media technology side of it, and that's why I'm pushing it in, because that's at jeopardy. All of those things, and there's hundreds. We buy down, just centralized purchasing, to your point. Even if Lewis Central partnered with Council Bluffs Schools and a contingency group in this area, there's no way you can buy it down to 5%. We're able to do that because we purchased that as a state. Because Pear Deck, for instance, teachers are using that in their classroom because we want to stay up to speed on technology. And. So I'm going to stop there, see if there's any questions. Thank you again for your time and your support. I'll end with one thing. If you want to do something, it's kind of back to what you said earlier about this other bill. It's really as simple as reaching out to Senator Dawson or Representative Winchittle or Senator Costello or Brent Seacrest and all of the folks in this area, because I do feel like they're listening. Those are good folks trying to serve our communities too, and they're trying to figure this out. They trust the educators, but they also are trying to figure out this bill that's coming down, and so they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And the best thing we can do is just share a story. And the one thing that you said, and I want to resonate with, if you didn't say anything else, just say, doesn't something like this demand a little bit of time and conversation? There's a lot of confusion out there. We should be sitting at a round table with representatives from Lewis Central, from the AEA, from the Department of Ed together, because we're all on Team Kid, right? And let's just figure it out together. I know we can do that, and there's a path forward. So, any questions?
I just want to say thanks. As someone who met the AEA when my daughter was a week old in the hospital with NICU, and when you're young parents and you're scared to heck after you hear the prognosis of your child that has a disability, having the AEA come in and say, we'll take care of PT, we'll take care of OT, we'll take care of speech, we'll set up, you could get a case manager, a caseworker. They came to our home so we didn't have to drive or travel at zero cost to us. Mm-hmm. That's nothing short of a godsend, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so everyone here knows I'm an ardent supporter of public education, and their biggest silent partner in that is the AEA.
Thank you. Yeah, we haven't done a great job, along with other educators, in sharing our story, and your story resonates totally with all of us in the room and others, and that story is being shared, that type of story, like not just hundreds of times, but thousands of times across the state. And that's important, because that ultimately is, I think, human beings, that resonates with human beings, and you can't help but say, okay, is that something we want to really dismantle? That doesn't make any sense. And by the way, if you're going to dismantle it, what is your plan to replace the gap that's there? Crickets, no plan, no details. When we ask, okay, because I could live in the world of special ed only, that's one conversation, but I have to ensure that all these other services, there's one example, go on, because I care about this community and kids too, just like all of you. So, but when there's no plan, or if there is a plan, it hasn't been revealed to anybody that I've talked to, that's troubling. So, other questions or comments? Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much,
Yes, thank
and
you.
thanks for all you do for the
Thank you all.
kids.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, do we have any other commendation and good news?
I do have one more presenter. I left her off the agenda, and because I didn't know, she had a mishap on a pickleball court, and so
Actually, I told the kids.
Lisa, get the dollar first.
I was calling like I got attacked by a bear.
I need one of those. Do you want me to hold it for you? No. I told the kids I was being attacked by a tiger, and I was so fast, the only thing they got was my heel, but they didn't buy it. So I actually had an unfortunate incident on the pickleball court and tore my Achilles tendon.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, but the fortunate part, it was a great time to do it, because when I had surgery, I had to be on bed rest for 10 days. I had surgery Friday the 12th, and we didn't have school because of snow. And then the next week, we had no school on Monday because of PD day. And then we had 2 2-hour late starts and 2 early dismissals that week. So I missed 4 days with kids, and that was it. And the shortest 4 days of the year, as Ryan pointed out. So it was great. But I do appreciate the opportunity to come. So Dr. Hazing had asked us at an admin team meeting to just put our name on the agenda sometime to share what's going on in our building. I have been at the middle school at Lewis Central for 5 years, and I actually replicated kind of what I share with my family input group. So parents who come, who have kind of some say in what we're doing at the middle school, and I always appreciate their input. But most people, the first thing I do is say the first word that comes to mind when you think of middle school. And everyone's face is like, oh boy. Because middle school is hard. It's a hard time in kids' lives. But I am so grateful to be a part of it because I truly do love what I do. And I will try very hard to be brief. I know we just had a long presentation, but I want to give you just a basic look of what we're doing at the middle school and kind of why I'm so proud of the work that's happening. So the first page, if you look at it, it's just the basics. Like, this is us. I know that we've talked a lot about that big 8th grade class this year. It is our biggest in the building. Just over 730 students with 51 teachers, 3 instructional coaches, 2 full-time counselors, and then 2 principals. The next page is something that I'm extremely proud of, and I owe a lot of gratitude to staff. Also the AEA, who's helped us through this process. Actually, we are one of those targeted designated schools because of our gap cuts and special education scores, which I'll get to in a little bit. But through that work and through the school improvement process with district staff, our building leadership team, and the wonderful teachers and students we have in our building, we have increasingly progressed every single year in our school improvement score, our state report card score. So if you look, we are at the high performing. We met all of our goals last year. And again, a lot of tribute to hardworking folks at the middle school. The next thing is just a breakdown of scores, and I include that only because this was the first time in my tenure at the middle school we are above the state average in every single category that the state measures. That's not a stopping place. That's not a, oh, we're good enough. It's be proud of the work that we're doing and continue to work hard to improve those scores. But to be above the state average in everyone was a really big celebration for us. The next page just shares what we're still working toward. So I put culture climate goals before achievement goals for a very specific reason. Middle school is hard, and if kids don't come to school every day knowing that they are safe and cared about, I don't think achievement ever happens. That's a personal philosophy, and I think that we've lived it for the last 5 years as we've seen students go through the middle school. So we are extremely concerned with culture climate. We want to make sure that students feel safe and good at school, number one, and then also know that we have very high expectations. So I kind of gave some baseline data that was from last year, but we measure things like our emotional safety survey. That's with the state with Conditions for Learning. We ask students once a trimester, are the adults praising you for things you're doing right? Do you feel like they care about you? Do they make learning fun? Like, those are really important things, right? If kids are not engaged in the learning process, they are not going to learn. And then the other goals that we have for all students, like we want to make sure all students get a postcard from a staff member. We want staff to feel connected to other staff at school. That's also really important. And so you kind of see on down from there. Our achievement goals, I do want to highlight on the next slide. We have shown significant growth in all areas of proficiency. Every year we set a goal not only in all students' proficiency, but also our students with IEPs. That's been a hot topic, especially with the AEA stuff. I want to point out that we have improved those numbers, but they're definitely not where we want to be, and we are looking at incremental change to get where we want to be. So we focus very, very hard on our special education services and where we are. I also want to make a point that students are identified as having an IEP are then included in that data. This data, nor does the data kind of being reflected at the state level, show that students meet goals. And when they meet their goals, they're exited off of those services. And so I can think of kids in my head last year who before this test exited services and tested proficient. Well, they're not included, so then our data looks worse, technically, right? So I give the example, if I had 30 students who had special education services and 10 tested proficient, that would be 30% proficient. If I had those same 30 students and 3 met goals, so I exited them, I'm now at 7 proficient out of 27, and my number's 26. So really, you know, it's a hard thing to do. I do feel like we're doing what's best for kids. We still have work to do in terms of those gap scores. How do we reach our goals? Professional learning focus areas, I just want to highlight this year. MTSS, that multi-tiered system of support, so getting every student what they need in terms of achievement, in terms of behavior, in terms of everything. It's been a district-wide focus, and again, supported by AEA staff. Dr. Hartman has been very influential in helping us with that, but that's our building-wide goal. We also have done a lot of teacher clarity work. That's actually been led by Roxanne Wiles from AEA. That's to ensure that students know expectations of learning and are able to articulate that. We are working with priority standards, and Dr. Hartman's going to help that too, to identify exactly what it is grade to grade kids need to do and learn. Timely intervention, that's one of those things where if students aren't learning, we need to ask the question why and get them help as soon as possible. And then lastly, restorative practices, that's again supported by AEA, and that has been a huge focus for our staff. Our building leadership team is attending training in that right now. And the family input group, it was really interesting to talk through with them what restorative practice looks like. Yes, there have to be consequences, and there needs to be punitive consequence sometimes, but if there's no changed behavior, then you know it doesn't matter how much you punish or consequence. You can't consequence a kid into positive behavior sometimes. So yes, consequence, but also that restorative piece where we need you to know that you're still one of our students. We're happy that you're here, and we know that you can make a change for the better. So that will be ongoing for the next 2 to 3 years probably. Next, I did want to share, I asked some of our staff to share some good things. So I do want to highlight the academics as well as fine arts areas we have. We have such good things happening at the middle school in terms of our exploratory classes and fine arts. It's really fun to see. So not only do I project lead the way in STEM, I know we've talked a ton about plastics. We have plastics manufacturing class for the first time ever this trimester. And we had 40 spots in the class over 2 trimesters, and I had 85 course requests for it. So definitely a fun area. Art is another one. We have tons of students who always want to take art. We have over 20 students in independent study arts because they've demonstrated such a high level of skill. They get to do their own projects kind of, and they're extremely proud of that. Choir, we've transitioned to section-specific voice parts for students so that they can learn and excel with like peers. And then also our show choir, I think, took every award this recent weekend.
They did, under the direction of Natalie Chandler and
Yes.
Chloe Adkins. They received a gold award.
Yep.
They received best band, best choir, and best choreography. So they were excellent. They were great representatives of our district. Very proud to take them out and have them showcase what it is that they've learned. So
Absolutely.
they were spot on this last weekend. They go
Tell
out
them
twice this weekend.
Have to share next time? Like,
What?
Tell them to share next competition? Like, let somebody else have
No.
some?
No.
We want to win it all.
No. And so we go to Papillion La Vista. They go, sorry, I get a little excited.
No, it's good.
They go to Papillion La Vista South on Friday night and then turn right around and get up and go to Millard South on Saturday. So we have 2 back-to-back this weekend.
I was going to say, our middle school show choir schedule, it could rival some high school schedules.
It does rival.
I think.
Absolutely does.
And their performance is absolutely amazing. So they're
If you
very,
haven't
very
seen
fun to
them,
watch.
I can send you the link on YouTube.
Yep.
I've videoed it, of course, so it's there. But they did excellent things this year so far.
Absolutely. And our band, I also wanted to highlight, we have a great participation in our band. One thing that they did want me to talk about was Make Music Cloud. It's a program that we've actually approved purchasing in the past for them. It allows students to practice at home with additional parts. They can record, get feedback immediately. It's an amazing program. We also had 7 students at Honor Band today. We do have a middle school jazz band, which is kind of a pretty big highlight for a middle school. So all good things. One of the last things that I want to, and I'll tell anybody who will listen, this year I give a ton of credit to Mr. Dickinson and Mr. Barker for kind of coming up with this idea this year. Middle school is a time where sometimes kids just need a little break and a reset. So we're getting a lot of frustrations from students and teachers of kids that really just, honestly, they just needed a reset. And the space for that was the office. Well, the way to get to the office is usually through some sort of disciplinary referral. And that's not necessarily what kids needed. So this year, starting in August, we actually piloted the Titan Success Center, which is actually just the auditorium commons. I put a fridge there. It has free snacks. But teachers volunteer their time. As of October, we'd had over 200 plan periods volunteered by teachers to just work with students who just needed a break and just needed a reset. And so what that's actually done, the positive impact that's had on our students in terms of lessening those disciplinary consequences, and along with many other things, and staff members just being absolutely amazing working with kids and having the patience that it takes to work with middle school students every day, using that and then also volunteering their time, we've seen a significant drop in our referral data, which is hugely just something to celebrate. So if you look, I kind of just gave, minors is actually classroom incidents, but our system that we recorded in still calls it that. So majors are going to be your office-defined consequences, right? Classroom incidents are going to be handled by the teacher, and TSC referrals are just, they needed a break, they came back, they did better, let's celebrate that. So you can kind of see when one goes up, the others do, right? Middle school kids might have a bad week here and there, but what we've actually seen this, as we've started this second trimester, is the number of students who need that support has gone down significantly. It's like we've figured it out. We've learned how to kind of manage those things. And the referral data that I love to share, and Dr. Hartman actually wrote an article for ASCD, and it was published, which was amazing. Our referral data in terms of things that are office referred consequences and I mean, they're just down so significantly. If you look at December alone, a year ago we had 132 and this year we had 68. And like I said, I attribute a ton of that really good work to staff and their work with our students. The last thing I want to highlight is just positive recognition. Like I said, students don't learn until they know that they are cared about. So one way we give Titan tickets as part of our PBIS system, so that's how many tickets have been given this year. We give shout outs in the announcements daily. Students are able to send thank you Thursdays to one another, or staff can send thank you Thursdays to one another or students, and I CC their parents when they send those. We've had over 3,000 sent this school year. I send those every single Thursday. Over 200 postcards. Students have the opportunity to buy things at the PBIS store every Friday. We have a Traveling Spirit Award per grade level, and every week we have second step lessons to help reinforce those learnings that we want to focus on. So that's middle school in a nutshell. I tried to just highlight the things that I think make us us, and I think that our staff is doing really good things for students. So any questions for me?
I just want to say something really quick. Landon is in middle school.
Yes, sixth grade.
Yes, sixth grade, and he got a postcard from Argo.
Yes.
And seeing him read it and like his face light up, it's a big deal for Landon because he's like,
Absolutely.
man. But the way that he related to him about the Lions football and all that stuff, it was really great to see that. I didn't realize we were doing that, so I just want to say thank you for applying that and having them get those sent out because it was
Definitely.
it was just cool to see him read it and love it.
Yeah. Good. I'm
and then I
glad.
also want to say the PBIS store. I didn't realize you guys still did that at the middle school. And Landon was so pumped about being able to go pick something out in there too.
Oh,
So
yeah. Good.
yeah.
I'm glad. That's awesome.
He actually talked about it, so that's a big deal.
You get a middle school.
They usually don't talk.
You get a middle school kid to tell you what happened during their
I
day.
was
That's
like,
a win,
whoa.
right? I have my own. Like, how was your day? Fine. What'd you do?
Yep.
Nothing. Okay.
I was like,
let's
Mom, you're
try
annoying.
again.
I'm like, well, but he just opened up and started talking. I'm like, wow,
Oh, that's awesome.
This
Good.
is great. So
It's good to hear.
Mhm.
Good.
So this being my first year on the board, thank you
Oh,
for
yeah.
this.
No problem.
Because at least like hearing things straight from the horse's mouth a lot of times
Yeah.
Right.
is worth its own weight in gold. But
Yeah.
thank you for putting that together. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I should say too, like, none of this would be possible if it wasn't for awesome parent support when we do have, I mean, because there are issues, don't get me wrong, but I cannot express how supportive not only our administration is, and our teachers, but parents. I cannot tell you how wonderful the Lewis Central Community School District parents are. They are fantastic, so.
And as a
Absolutely.
parent who had children go through the middle school, I tell you what, this is wonderful.
Thank you.
Because I could see the change from when my kids were in middle school to now, and I wish my sons would have had this. And so
Thank you.
I think with the work you do, thank you. And all the teachers in that, because it's the teacher's attitude. Because that's what I found out, is that some of the teachers we had, it was like they weren't open to help the kids. It was, this is how I do it, this is how I've done it, this is what, and so hearing this is just wonderful.
Good. I'm glad. I mean, kids have changed, right?
Yeah.
Like, kids have changed in the last,
Yeah.
5 years. Since
Right.
I started, kids are different than
Right.
they were then. So, like, I feel
Right.
like as a staff, I mean, everybody from teachers, paras,
Right.
support staff, everyone knows and understands that, like, we have to adapt the system in order to help
Right.
students be successful. And I think we're really good about making sure we're trying to look at that to make adjustments as needed. So, thank you for that.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just like,
Oh, go ahead.
I just like to say I appreciate thinking outside the box or pushing the envelope, like with the Titan Success Center.
Right.
That, that idea would never occur to me.
Right. I will be 100% honest. When Mr. Barker and Mr. Dickinson pitched it to me, I was like, I don't know. That sounds pretty far-fetched. And to like have teachers just volunteer time, like we're not assigning somebody that responsibility. Like they really are just donating their time. And if it's not covered, the student just comes to the office and we have a similar conversation, and that's okay. But I think for kids too, they get to see that someone's there just because they care about helping them, you know, and I think that that's just another good connection. So,
Thank you.
yeah. And like I said, I was a skeptic. I was, but I believe in good people, and they're good people, and they very much believed in it. It's been outstanding, so.
Well, and I'm gonna bring up the, not only is it the educational side, but like you said on this one slide here, talking about, like the mental health side of things.
Yep.
And that Titan, it speaks volumes to those kids who maybe are not getting 100% of the services they need, but that little bit that they get through the Titan Success Center gives them enough to get through. Or like, I'm gonna just, my kid we've had a heck of a struggle getting through middle school. He just does not like school. Sorry, Timmy, if you're watching.
I'm sure he is.
I'm sure he's
I'm
probably
certain.
not, but now he's gonna go seek it out.
I'll fill him in tomorrow.
Yeah, let him know that he was a topic. You know, it's been a real challenge, but to know that when I went into conferences this last week and I sat down and I visited with his teachers and I shared with them, you know, some of the issues that we have faced this last year, they said, you know, he's a good kid and they take care of him emotionally for me when I can't be there. And knowing that I'm not just sending my kid in to learn, you know, A plus B equals C, that somebody is going to give my kid a hug if they need one, whether it be the principal of the building or whether it be the math teacher or whoever, fist bump from the social studies teacher, those things speak volumes to kids of this age. And that you've noticed it and taken that bull by the horns is just so powerful. And you can see that in your numbers. So as I've told you before, it's kudos to you and your team across the board. So
Thank you. Appreciate it. We do have a great team.
you do.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you
so
for your
much.
time. I really do appreciate it.
Do you need help getting out to your car?
No, I got it. But if we wanted to talk about accessibility at the middle school, I could sit down for another 10 minutes.
No kidding.
My scooter and I have a pretty rough time most of the day.
Yeah.
But I am fast. Ask the kids.
Get some zip lines in there.
Yeah.
Could we put a stipend in for a horn for her?
Oh, well, it might be a safety concern at some point. I might need one because I've about taken some people out when they're coming out of rooms and I'm just zooming by.
Zooming right along.
Either I need to slow down or I need a horn. So. Which one probably is going to happen first? I'll give you a guess.
I know the answer.
Thank you very much for your time. I
Okay.
appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, commendation and good news?
That's it for tonight.
I got something I'd like to add.
Okay.
Per the email we all received, Amanda Stevenson from the Titan Hill staff, one of our very own fifth graders' poem was selected for the 2023-2024 Poetry and Music Project through the Opera Omaha.
Yeah.
Young lady named Keelan Reese. First time that we actually had students submit poems and getting one published is it's a pretty awesome deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Her grandparents are former teachers in the district, and her mom is a former LC alum.
That's pretty cool. Yes, and we did get that email, and I'm glad you mentioned it because we had gotten that after our last board meeting, and so.
And they're gonna put music to it, right?
Yeah, oh, it's
Fabulous.
amazing what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
I'd share.
So hopefully more kids will submit poems, and maybe we'll have more in the future.
Absolutely.
All right, now we will go to comments and suggestions. This is the first time during our agenda that anyone in our audience or anyone online can type something in to address the board.
Roxanne Wiles did earlier, just thanking you guys for having the Green Hill staff here. taking the time to hear from leadership at Great Hills. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go then to our consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have an updated personnel sheet?
Yes, there is a few updates on there. Yes, there's only two. They're kind of towards the bottom. Skylar Avila, no license resignations, and a mid-year mentor contract ad for our mid-year teacher hire.
Okay. Is there any questions or discussion on the consent agenda?
The mid-year hire, I will mention, from the mid-year resignation, Megan Gibson. Typically, we require, excuse me, a suitable replacement to be found prior to my recommendation of the board to approve the resignation. We did find a suitable replacement. Can you scroll down just so I can get her name?
Up at the top.
Oh, it was at the top.
Amanda
Right there.
Belt.
Amanda Belt. So Amanda Belt, student taught with us first semester, has been subbing with us throughout the year. So she, last week, participated in some parent-teacher conferences and spent some time with the parents and the students to be able to make sure it was a smooth transition. So, so my recommendation is to go ahead and approve her along with the other resignations. So.
Okay, anything else? Vote, please.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel? Yes. Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Adkins?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. Report 7.01, superintendent report.
So my report's mainly where we're sitting at currently with our facility stuff. So we do have Project Advocates has now been in every one of our buildings with an architect, with their own independent architect, and what do they call it? Engineers, to be able to go through every building and kind of give a reassessment of the assessment that Shive Hattery had provided us. Like I said, it's just a good opportunity for us to reset and take a look at things again. And they're developing kind of the next, what they would recommend pursuing forward, both for this year and in future years, which does include, they'll have a presentation or a recommendation to, because they've noted as well that, you know, with the amount of issues that we face between space and current facility issues, that we will need to request another bond, request the bond again. There's just not enough money in our coffers to be able to cover all those expenses. So they are going to provide a new recommendation, and then the board, and then we'll have to figure out, where do we go from here. So they're hoping to have that wrapped up by about the second week in February. By next week, they're hoping to midweek next week present it to that facility committee to be able to talk to them about where we're currently sitting, the work that they've done, the recommendations that they're going to make, and then kind of go forward from there. So when it comes to the school districts, we're getting close, or the school buildings, we're getting close to closing out second trimester, focusing a lot on at the middle school, or at the high school and middle school, a lot on career and college transitioning, focusing on making sure that students know what a path is for them, both during high school and after high school. Pat Nepple, our college and career readiness counselor, has continued to do a wonderful job with helping to provide a lot of options for them. And then our counselors and principals and other staff members have also really started looking at scheduling for next year more in an individualized thought, like, okay, you in particular, where should you go? What classes do we need? They're looking to adapt some classes, change some coursework. You'll see one in particular that's an option tonight. That's just based off student interests and what they want. So the biggest thing for us is allowing the students to lead the narrative and the path, instead of just saying this is what we offer, you know. And then the high school leadership team has also been doing a lot of work in developing some new graduation requirements. So, and taking a look at what would happen if we were to switch from trimesters to semesters, a more typical semester schedule that's aligns with Iowa Western and is pretty typical with most schools across the state. What would that look like? What would graduation requirements look like? Just in general, what do graduation requirements look like? You know, what was approved for graduation requirements in the 90s might not necessarily be what, you know, we would recommend today that kids graduate with, you know. So you might see some things like, you know, the child development course that's currently a requirement for graduation. You might see that go away and other options come up, or maybe it's more of a menu. We want you to take a class in this area in order to graduate, you know, providing more flexibility, revolving again around what is it that students want to do, where they want to be, you know, so when they graduate high school. So not saying any of those courses don't have value, but what should we be requiring as a metric to graduate? So that's one of the things we're looking at. So yeah, we'll just continue to press forward, and hopefully in the next month or so, we'll have some very interesting conversations about those things, so.
Any questions? All right, we'll go then to our discussion items. 8.01, ROTC Program Memorandum Agreement.
So this is something that Mr. Vin Chattel at the high school has been pursuing for a while. It's always kind of bugged him that a district our size has no options for ROTC for kids. So he's been in conversation with the Air Force, and they provide ROTC through Council Bluffs at Abraham Lincoln right now. So this would just be allowing us to kind of join that. You know, we would have students that, you know, who are interested, if it's in their schedule, be able to be a part of the ROTC program at Abraham Lincoln. So the memorandum's signed with the Air Force, but it allows our students to attend that program at Abraham Lincoln. They really didn't see, you know, it didn't really make much sense in a town this size to have a whole new ROTC program when they have space and we can grow the one at Abraham Lincoln. So the biggest thing again there is just providing an opportunity for students who are interested in that. So, and there's no cost out of pocket. So,
And would this be during the day? I don't know how the ROTC works.
yeah. So I think they do some activities in the evenings on the weekends, but it would be I do know that they meet during the day. So I can't tell you if it's morning or afternoon or what that looks like. There would be some sort of schedule that would have to be worked out, similar to what it would be like if a kid decided to attend class on Iowa Western's campus, you know. So, but they would work through it.
They used to do drills in the morning, almost like an extracurricular activity. I'm assuming they do those same activities still, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
No, I think that's great. I mean, if we can share and get our kids involved in it, and, because it is, just seeing
Is
the
my thing on?
the ROTC, kids come and do the flags and that at different events. They do a great job, and it gives them discipline, and I know my daughter probably would have been involved in that. She was in ROTC in college. And so, okay. Any other questions? Discussion? All right.
I think my battery died,
Okay.
so we're
There-
getting it replaced here real quick. Sorry, the green light went off. It's like, oh, it's- we're back.
Okay. Now, do you cut to and put something like technical error? You know how they used to have it on
Please-
TV? and
please stand by.
the
colored bars.
music?
Yeah,
All right.
should I do that? Yeah.
We'll go on to 8.02, course change request, high school.
So they do have a course change request. This is kind of driven, mix of students and staff. It is, Mr. Camrad's class. There's been some interest in like very specific, like, they have a general, weight class right now. So this one would be more geared towards athletes. And then they would look at their regular weight class and kind of, because right now I think there's a little bit of pressure to have a weight class that both helps athletes grow and helps, people focus on like kind of lifelong fitness. So the idea is to kind of pilot this to see if you're really an athlete and you want to lift heavier, be more focused, et cetera, then this is kind of your avenue here. And if you're someone who just wants to learn how to stay physically active and lift weights appropriately and stay in shape, that there would be an option for you as well. So just differentiating the courses a little bit. So, they're trying to think outside the box and try to figure out again, what do students want, and there are, in the same class, it's hard when you have one group of students that they want to work hard, they want to get bigger, faster, stronger, and the other group, they just want to do it for, to stay in shape, they just try to stay active for mobility or whatever. So I think you'll start seeing more of our, these types of courses, physical education courses in general, becoming a little more specialized as we move forward. So.
Okay. I think there was a mix-up on the,
Yeah, it didn't get changed.
Agenda?
Yeah, I just scrolled down.
right, scroll down, but then when we
What's that?
go to make the motion, it'll
description
be,
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't change. I'm sorry, the description.
Purchasing a bus
that's okay.
We'll take
We'll
care
just,
of it.
on 56.
Bye.
as
My fault.
presented.
There's
Got
the
it.
change approval form. I didn't
I got it.
change the,
I already got the wording in my head.
I think it was
You gotta
the 6 hour time difference over in London. So,
Which time are you on?
it's 6 hours forward, so.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to point that out, that as presented, it has nothing to do with the
Yeah.
description. All right, we'll go then. Any questions on that?
I have a quick question. So
Okay.
they're essentially gonna split it into two different?
Yeah.
Okay, I think
Yep.
that's wise.
Yep, so as a student, the hard thing is then, anytime you have specialty courses like that, it makes scheduling difficult. So if I really wanted to be in the sports-centered one, and it didn't work with my schedule, I'd have to be in the general weights class. But at the end of the day, just like any student, if you went to the teacher and said, hey, I can't be in this class, I gotta be in this one, but can you kind of give me, a little bit extra so I can kind of mimic that course, we're gonna work with you. I mean, that's what we do, so.
Any other questions? All right.
Yeah, that was definitely not about a tractor.
Okay. No problem. 8.03, real estate purchase agreement.
So you actually have you have an email here. Connor Wasson is our attorney at Allers and Cooney. Because the goal of the board, the last purchase agreement that we have that we've been just kind of extending to be able to have conversations about it, did have us buying the entirety of the properties, as we, if a bond were to pass. And, because a couple of the landowners, weren't willing to wait, actually none of the landowners were willing to wait and have the same terms for a whole nother year, seeing if we could pass a bond again. We had to sit down basically at the table with them and have conversations about, what are you willing to do? So the terms would change from those original terms to the following. My recommendation would be to approve the purchase agreement with Danny Boehm, set the closing date is February 29th, on or before February 29th, 2024. That's $170,000, about 4 acres, and it would allow us to own the majority of the roadway that's right in front of the east-south Omaha Bridge Road. And then the other portion would be with Mattable's property, or with Bass Farm, which is the Mattable property, to purchase the northern portion of that, the northern 29.17 acres. So we would have the entirety of the roadway there. And then by having that land, that just kind of gives us, the first chunk that we need to be able to look at expanding our school properties and adding a school. It would give us an opportunity, if we were not to pass a bond, to be able to use that property for something else, or be able to at least have the beginning of what we need in the future for someday when we do pass a bond or are able to build a new school. So it's kind of an investment there. The purchase price of that is $1.134 million, and then for the remainder of that property, we would look at purchasing the remainder of that property, the southern portion of that, if we pass the bond. So if we run another bond this year and we pass a bond, that we would purchase the remainder of that property. And then with Bill Watson's ground, he's going to grant us an extension through the remainder of this year, so we can attempt to go after a bond again and try to see if we can get the bond to pass. And one of the things that he has asked to as concession for extending it another year is that we change the $50,000 deposit that we have on the ground, or on the land right now, for a refundable deposit, and just call it a non-refundable, non-applicable deposit. Now, the only thing with that is that actually we've gone out and gotten some donations from people to be able to cover the majority of that $50,000. So it really wouldn't be any more taxpayer money that would go towards that purchase. So basically the amount that we had an agreement, the amounts that we had an agreement from this summer and fall on that ground, we wouldn't end up paying any more than that if the bond passes and we're able to acquire the land again for projects. So.
Is there any questions? And then if the bond doesn't pass, then we are in no
If the bond-
obligation
Yep,
to
so
buy.
Right, so any of the for sure, we would still own Bowen's ground, and we'd still own the northern portion of the Bass Farm. So if we wanted to, we could still do something on a much smaller scale with that ground as well. So, and with the proximity to the school, I mean, it really could serve a wide variety of purposes. So,
Yes.
if this was land that was out in the county or far away, it would be harder to say, what would we use that land in the future? I mean, ideally, we'll eventually be able to build a school to alleviate all of our congestion issues and look towards the future. So we'll think positively, and hopefully the community will support us in that endeavor moving forward. So.
Absolutely. Any other comments, discussion? All right. All right, we'll go to 8.04, the 2024-2025 school calendar.
Do you guys have any questions about the school calendar?
Since we had the public hearing, you went over everything about the calendar, so
Yep.
any things pop up between then and now?
Nope.
All right. We'll go on then to 8.05, employee leave request. And per Iowa code, we are allowed to go into closed session for this. And I will need Yes, Iowa Code 21.51A, closed session is appropriate to review or discuss record which are required or authorized by state or federal law to be kept confidential or to be kept confidential as a condition for that governmental body's possession or continued receipt of federal funds. Can I get a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen?
Yes.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Adkins?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheppel?
Yes. if anyone is still listening to us. We have gone through our closed session. Now we are at comments and suggestions. This is the second time during our agenda that anyone in our audience or anyone online can type something to address the board. Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to our action items. 10.01 ROTC Program Memorandum Agreement.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the ROTC Program Memorandum Agreement with the Air Force and Council Bluffs Community Schools.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Sorensen.
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
Ms. Atkins.
Yes.
Mr. Houston.
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel. Yes. Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel.
Yes. 10.02 Course Change Request at the High School.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the course change request at the high school as presented.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
Vote, please.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
Ms. Atkins.
Yes.
Mr. Houston.
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel. Yes. Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel.
Yes. 10.03 Real Estate Purchase Agreement Amendments.
I would recommend that you
Yep.
guys read 1, 2, and 3. You can kind of combine them, but read 1, 2, and 3 on the email.
At the
So,
same time?
You can just kind of read, yeah, just read them all at the same time. Yep.
Sounds good. Madam President,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to move I move to amend the purchase agreement with the Danny Bowen to set the closing date on or before February 29th, 2024. Also, I move to amend the purchase agreement with Bass Farm LLC, set the closing date on the northern 29.17 acres on or before February 29th of 2024 for a purchase price of $1,134,365.55, and to set the closing of the remainder of the property under contract for a date on or before December 30th, 2024, for a purchase price of $1,565,634.45, subject to the passage of a general obligation bond to fund the construction of a school on the property. And I'd also like to move to amend the purchase agreement with Bill Watson to set the closing date on December 30th, 2024, subject to the passage of general obligation bond to fund the construction of the school on the property, and to make the $50,000 earnest money deposit non-refundable and non-applicable to the purchase price.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Ms. Atkins.
Yes.
Mr. Houston.
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel. Yes. Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen.
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel.
Yes. 10.04 2024-2025 School Calendar.
Madam Chair,
Ms.
I'd like
Atkins.
to make a recommendation to approve the 2024-2025 school calendar as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Houston.
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel. Yes. Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen.
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
Ms. Atkins.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel.
Yes. 10.05 Employee Leave Request.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the employee leave request discussed in closed session.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel. Yes. Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Sorensen.
Yes.
Mr. Wright.
Yes.
Ms. Atkins.
Yes.
Mr. Houston.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel.
Yes. Items of interest, future board meetings. Our next regular board meeting will be February 5th at 6:30. Anything else we need to?
Nope, not necessarily. Nope. Next Monday, quick turnaround.
Yep. All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?